Hey, welcome to askrphtish. I welcome everyone for watching this evening, and we have a special topic that's very important to me and to all of the people that watch the channel. First, I just would like to thank everyone, as usual, thank you for being there, for supporting the homeless community, supporting the people who are suffering with addiction, supporting the people with mental health illnesses. They actually do watch the podcast. They ask questions about, the comments that y'all may mention, and they're just really appreciative of all of the love and support that y'all give to them. So I just want to thank y'all and appreciate y'all for that. So I just want to give a hands up for that. So today we're going to be talking about childhood trauma and can it lead to homelessness? Is that a just cause for the homeless crisis? Today I'm not by myself. I have Tony, who is a channel member. I appreciative of him, and I will bring him up in a moment. I have my day one Frankie. Appreciative of him her being here as well. And just basically we're going to talk about something that's really deep and heavy. There is a link in the comment section pinned at the top. So please feel free to join in and give experiences or what your thoughts are about it. So when it comes to childhood homelessness, just to give a brief overview, I would like for people to put in the chat, how many do y'all think of the homeless community actually went through homeless? Hey, Teacher Chronicles, thank you for being here. Who actually gone through childhood trauma? So all of the people I've interviewed, over almost 300 people that are homeless. What's the percentage do y'all think that actually went through childhood trauma? And while y'all may put that in the chat, I want to bring up Tony, and everyone give Tony a big hand. Hey, Tony. Nice to meet you. Thank you for being here.
Hello. Oh, yes,
and
thank
how
you.
Are you doing this? And how are you doing this evening, Tony?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing well, and yeah, I'm excited to be on here, and a little nervous, but.
Oh, no, don't be nervous. Okay. And then we're going to bring up Frankie, day one. Hey, Frankie.
Hello, how are you everyone doing?
Teacher Chronicles, you're a teacher, but you spell everyone wrong. What's going on? But okay, so guys, Tony and Frankie. So we're talking about childhood trauma and does it lead to homelessness in a lot of the cases? So out of all of almost the 300 people that were interviewed, the 300 people that y'all have witnessed with me, have gone through the journey of getting to know them and their stories, how many do y'all think experienced childhood trauma, you think?
I think it's that.
I'll start with Frankie first. I'm sorry, Tony. Go ahead, Tony.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Tony. Well, how many you think?
I think it's the vast majority.
Like you think like well, first of all, hold on. My background is kind of messed up, so let me see if I can get that fixed real quick. I'm not sure. I'm sure. Okay, there we go. So what percentage do you think? You think it may be 5%, 10%, 50, 100? How many people a percentage you think that actually went through childhood trauma that are homeless?
I would guess 80.
Okay, that's a great number. What about you, Frankie? How many do you think?
I actually agree with him. Around 80, 85, I would say.
Okay, so let's pull up on this. Let me see. We have around about 90% of the homeless community in the United States have actually gone through childhood trauma. 90%. That is a really big percentage. This, like it says, overwhelming link between childhood trauma and the future of homelessness. So, what do y'all think is the case of that? I see David McDaniel. Thank you for being here, David. I appreciate your comment and your support of being here. All right, so David has said that he has gone through. He said, "I gone through childhood trauma, but I grew up and got a job." How do y'all feel about that comment? So to speak.
I feel like in a way that it's good that he may have overcame his challenges and the trauma, but some people are like and it's good he got a job, like that's very respectful. But the thing is, not a lot of people don't have that same opportunity when they go through childhood trauma. It could really mess them up. So that's good in some cases, but in some cases it's not like that.
Yeah, excellent point. What about you, Tony? What do you think about David saying, yeah, he's gone through it as well, which, a lot of people have gone through. 70% of people in the United States have gone through trauma. So that's a pretty big number in general. But how do you feel about childhood trauma and David saying that, I grew up and I got a job. So how do you feel about that?
Yes, I feel like like for myself, I worked on my problems, but I feel like it always affects you. Like going through it your whole childhood, or even just as in your adulthood, as you grow out of it, it just affects your trajectory. It just changes it changes your normal.
Okay.
It's just.
Do y'all feel that childhood trauma somehow changes the landscape or the neuroscience of the brain? Do you think that you have a normal brain compared to like someone who's had a great childhood? You think there are
So how long have you been homeless?
Differences? I'm sorry about that. How do y'all feel about that? That you think that maybe trauma can change? Like, for example, addiction changes, it hijacks the brain and it changes how the brain is wired. How do y'all feel that's the same way with trauma?
I do, but I have PTSD, so it's kind of different for me. But I do see how it could affect,
Right, got you. So, okay, so before we go on, we're going to look at this clip and we're going to see how childhood trauma can affect you as an adult and kill the inner child. So let's look at that clip.
I couldn't even begin to name like all the people that I have gotten molested by. I mean, they can hear her beating me. People can hear her.
How do you feel about your mother?
And the judge said life, 25 to life, and I was like,
what?
No.
Hey.
So I said, okay, can I just go home for a furlough so I can take care of my kids, so I can, get things situated with them?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, sure. He shouldn't have did that.
And here's the next part of the clip. So was your mother abusive? Was a study supposed to be able to play with baby dolls and everything, and you have to stand on a chair to just cook and clean?
I didn't get to do that.
So was your mother abusive?
Every day.
Every day?
Every day.
So how were your teenage years?
I left before I turned 13. I left home when I was like 11.
Really?
Because something happened. I don't quite remember what, but my mom came home from work and she was upset. And so, y'all know they had these two pillows that divide a living room from a bedroom.
Okay.
And she stripped me naked first, tied me up to these poles, opened the front door, and beat me with a extension cord until I bled. and the kids in school saw it. So I was embarrassed, and I stopped going to school.
Are you serious? Wow, that's pretty profound. I would love to hear David's feedback on, like, how does he feel about people who have gone through the things that Sheila has gone through. She was already abused. Her childhood was stripped away from her. She's cooking and cleaning. She's doing basically her mother hijacked her childhood. And what are the odds of maybe the mother herself never had her own childhood? And this is a vicious cycle of adults taking away their children's childhood. I would love to know how he feels about that. But how do someone like Sheila, for example, how do you supposed to move on from that? 90%, she's a homeless woman. Look at her. She's strong. She's beautiful. You would never guess she's homeless. But when you really peel back and get to the layers of what's going on and talk to someone, you really find out the true the idiosyncrasies of what's really going on with them. How do you feel about that, Frankie? Like, how is someone supposed to move on when you had such traumatic experiences as a child?
Well, like in my case, I've learned a way. Sorry, excuse me. I learned a way to kind of block out my emotions. So if something bad happens, I tend to forget about it or make myself forget, and that's been my coping mechanism. But it seems like like this woman, she's really strong and she can deal with it, and it's very hard to deal with, and each case is different. So I. It has to say I don't know how to deal with things like that. It's up to the individual's life, I guess, like for what treatment they need.
Right. So you said you went through childhood trauma, you're saying, as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So what's the difference? So let me ask you this. Did that, you think, led to your addiction possibly that you mentioned before?
I think so. It could be related to it. Definitely because of the self-esteem and self-worth
Wow.
thoughts and stuff. And also before I was really mad at the world because of what happened and stuff like in my life. But then I decided to take responsibility and own it, and now it doesn't affect me as much.
Right. And that was
Oh,
a
I'm sorry,
key
I'm having
point you
connection issues.
Oh, you're fine. Hello, Tony. Hello. Whenever you can hear us, Tony, you can jump right in and talk. Can you hear us, Tony? But yeah, where is the fine line of, like, how do people overcome? Like Sheila, she's here. Like I said, she's strong, but she's homeless. She has gone through so much in her life, and like all people have, well, not all people, but a lot of people that have gone through trauma, they are not able to just move on. They have to use drugs as an escape mechanism to cope. You have any thoughts on that, Tony? Or can you hear us?
Try to change.
Hello? Okay, well, we'll come back to Tony. So you made. We'll come back to Tony. Her mad and she. What's going on? I'm sorry, my audio is getting quirky. But yeah, I just don't understand. A lot of times it takes a lot. It takes a lot for you to dig in deep inside of you and to listen. She was pulled by each arm as if she was a slave and whipped by
Yeah,
her
that's not
own
good.
mother. And she, on top of that, she was humiliated. And you made an excellent point, Frankie, when you talk about self-esteem and self-worth. Like, how do you supposed to dig that up when the person, the nurturer, the person that's supposed to protect and love you, strips that away from you? It just shows how the human spirit is strong and resilient, but still it does still show itself. Tony, you're saying something? Can Tony hear us? Tony? He just totally
Went off.
went
Just
off.
went crazy. And so I stopped going to school.
Uh-huh.
And I hadn't even finished the 8th grade. So
Really? And so
yeah.
how did she feel about you staying home all the time? Or she just
Well, when I left,
where did you go at 11 years old?
in the street,
Mm-hmm.
in the street, sleeping in the hallways. So I tried to, because I was still scared, I tried to like stay places like close to where she lived at.
Yeah.
But she would
You get to your family, or when you get to,
it didn't phase her.
oh, thank you.
She would come downstairs in the mornings and throw her garbage in the basement and see me sleeping
Oh,
there and just throw the garbage down there on me and go to work. Told my sisters they better not open the door, otherwise they get it when she come home.
Yes.
So instead of trying to get you to come back, she basically made sure you were
She
banned.
definitely didn't want me to come back.
Uh-huh.
She didn't want me to come back.
So how did that shape your relationships and stuff? You know, did you ever get married or anything?
I did, but I have a habit of picking the wrong men too, the ones that want to beat on you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow,
I'm not just yes, sorry about this is bad.
Are you fine, Tony? You
I
fine?
left home about 14, and
We can't hear you. What you said, Tony?
sorry. Oh wait, my,
Okay, we see you talking, but we can't hear you. And you were doing fine right before we started, but that's how it goes. That's the beauty of live stream. You never know how it's going to go down. So, okay, yeah, you go to probably what you do is, Tony, you go back out and come back in, and that should fix it. That should fix everything. But yeah, so this Miss Sheila, she actually had her mother throw trash on top of her. It's not funny. It's just really phenomenal. The human spirit, like as a child, she's 11. She left her home at 11 years old.
Yeah, it's not good.
11 years old. She felt so abused that she would rather live on the streets. But if you watch the whole video, she even still says that she still ran away from home, but she still stayed close by to be close to home because she's still a child. You're only 11. At 11, what were you doing at 11, Frankie?
Honestly, I don't know. I probably was in a juvenile detention facility. I'm not sure.
Are you serious? So tell us about, if you don't mind, what experiences have you went through as a child? The childhood trauma you experienced, and how did you overcome it?
Well, just living in group homes and the foster system. Before my parents adopted me, I was in about 10 different homes from the age from 1 to 2. So that really kind of messed me up. And then I was in and out of CAS and stuff, and which is like the children's services in Canada, and in and out of the system, group homes, everything. I mean, I seen it all, and it's pretty bad, like what I've seen, like I'm not going to get into the specifics, but it's not a nice life.
So tell me this. I'm sorry, I'm trying to fix something in the background. But so tell me this. So you were adopted, basically. Did you ever know your parents, or how did that, go
No,
about?
because my mom was an alcoholic and a cocaine user, and my real dad was in the prison for a long time.
Okay. So you were given up at birth, you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. And how did you find out that you were adopted?
Through my adopted parents. But before I left the house around 11, they told me that long time ago that I was adopted. They had no issue telling me that.
Okay. And how did that make you feel? Like finding out that you were adopted? Did you feel, because a lot of times I talk to people and they feel very even though they went to a good home, they feel very rejected, and it still affected them. That was childhood trauma to them.
Yeah, like I deal with rejection issues. I would deal with insecurities and other things because of that. But it's something you get used to after a while. You kind of deal with it. Like I'm not saying that I'm not. It's just like childhood trauma or any kind of trauma. Like you eventually learn to deal with it. If you can stop the drugs and alcohol and doing those kind of escapes, then you could deal with the issue, you know. And I've so far I haven't dealt with it 100%, but I'm doing the best I can, you know.
Right. So so how old were you when you were adopted?
From 1 to 2, and then from 11 to about 18, I was in the adopted system,
Gotcha. Okay.
which was
Uh,
group homes, institutions, and stuff. So
so you were in group homes like since you were like a toddler.
yeah,
Okay, got you. Okay, so were your birth parents, were they kind to you or
I don't even know them, but my adopted
I mean
parents,
I meant you adopted. My apologies, you
yeah,
adopted.
they're besides being really religious and that wasn't the problem. It was just after I left the house when I became getting the trauma. Like when I was 11 and 10, like from the time I was 1 to 2 it was bad, but then from the time I was 2 to around 11, I was doing okay. But then from 11 to 18 was really bleak.
Okay. And in what way? What do you mean?
Well, I've seen a
Like
lot of fight. I've seen a lot of violence. I've seen a lot of things that shouldn't go on. Like I've seen pretty much it all, and not just in the system. When I was homeless too and stuff, I seen 4 murders and stuff. Like I've seen a lot of
so
stuff, and
mhm.
yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff, and it just what I've seen in my life has made me who I am now, and I don't feel sorry for myself. I just kind of deal with it and make it who I am and be stronger.
Right. Congratulations on that. That's amazing. That was absolutely amazing that you said that. So, do you feel that if you had like a normal childhood, you feel that you would have taken a different trajectory in life, that you wouldn't have gone through all of the trauma, the addiction and all of the things you've gone through, you think? Or do you think maybe it's something that's genetic that you were
Well,
born with? And
It was genetic because my mom was a cocaine user and she passed it down to me. And then when I got into my addiction, it felt like something was missing for all my life. And then as soon as I did it, I felt like it was ingrained in my system already. Like I already knew about it, but I didn't know about it though.
now that's very profound. So when you started using, you say cocaine, correct?
Yeah,
It was nothing that was brand new to you. It's like it just went right into the system and it felt
yeah.
natural to you.
And it felt like I was missing that for all my life. Like
Wow.
yeah, and that's why I believe it took me about 10 years to officially quit that stuff and not be involved in it. And you know what? I'm really I hope that the people who stuck in the addiction can beat it because it's not a life, you know. Like
Right.
sure, maybe it may be fun once in a while, but you know what? It brings up memories when you're done doing it, and it brings up your traumas and your and whatever elements. It brings it up after the good time, you know. So it's kind of
Right.
like like in the end, it may make you escape temporarily, but you have to learn to deal with it somehow. Because if you don't, you will never you won't get past it in life. Like you need to heal. You know.
Right. And that's really a excellent point you made. Even, not to transition to addiction per se, but but a lot of times with childhood trauma to escape, addiction is used. But right when that high wears off, then you come right back to square one. You come back to all of the realities, all of the feelings. So the question would be, why is this important? Why is it important to know that the people that you see on the streets, the people that you may hold on, let me get Tony to come back up. You good,
Oh,
Tony?
yeah. I switched to my phone. Hopefully it's better.
Oh, that's much better. It is like
Okay,
that. That's
great.
that's the beauty of live stream. It just goes down, you know.
Oh yeah,
All right, but
right.
not okay. So we're gonna back up for a minute. So Frankie was speaking about how they were adopted. They went through a lot of trauma from the group homes, from the different foster homes, and that led to a lot of the lifestyles that Frankie experienced. I mean, have you gone through any experiences that you wish to share or
Uh,
anything?
Yeah. I had childhood trauma. And then when I was 14, I left home. Got a bunch of relationships I really shouldn't have been in. I was underage, and there was people much over my age. Then being abused by my own family and siblings. I think you learn to not trust people. Like even now as an adult, like I have trust issues, and
Right.
though I learned to work around them, there's still a lot of issues when it comes to that. Um,
Right.
yeah, I always question people's motives, and it's harder for me to get close to people. You know,
I can relate to that.
Right. Yes, it does. And drugs really don't help because it makes you a little more
oh, they don't.
paranoid.
I
But it
agree.
does it makes you much more paranoid, but it does bring you back
I've been there.
to a place. Yeah, it brings you back to a place of, okay, this is my reality. You know how I don't. And you made a point of saying that, when it happens by your own family members, when your own mother strips you of your dignity, when your own
Yeah.
father strips you of your dignity, because we just not gonna lay it on the moms. It's
Right.
sometimes
Yes.
there's two parents households. I've done interviews where the father has been the perpetrator of abuse.
Oh, yes.
The
Definitely.
person that's supposed to be your foundation of life. And I just don't understand, like, how did y'all get through that? I mean, because myself personally, I didn't go through childhood trauma. So I find it remarkable that people who've gone through that were able to go on and be resilient and actually live lives. How did y'all go through that, Frankie? How did you realize? And I'm sorry, I get so excited. So I ask like 20 questions in one. But how do you come up with a game plan when you don't even have a good foundation? Like, how do you do that?
You know what? Honestly, I still don't have a game plan to this day. I only take today at a time, and I deal with
Right.
whatever happens today, and then whatever happens tomorrow, I'll deal with it tomorrow.
Okay. So you deal with it one day at a time. So, I mean, but how do you, if you're born and raised in chaos, okay, how do you know that that's not normal and what is normal? How do you get to the point of, you're not saying y'all per se, but you being, R word or M word or, abuse, domestic violence, all that. How do you go from chaos and know that there's supposed to be another way of living?
It's just faith. Like I honestly have a faith that it will get better one day. So that's all. You know what? It's a very hard question to answer, but all I say is, for me personally, I just had faith that it will get better, and the more good I put out, the more I realized that those ways aren't the best ways, and that's why maybe why I did time in jail because of my actions. Maybe this is why I screwed up my life because of my actions. So I understand that that way wasn't working. So now I do a different way. Like when I get angry or something now,
Mhm.
I try to deal with it in a different way now instead of my old back to the old me, you know.
And
So
what
I
and
try.
how did you handle that then back in, because you're a child, so you built up with all this frustration and rage and, adults taking advantage of you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Not one thing you can do about it. Okay?
It makes you angry inside.
Right. So how did you learn to harness that and be like, this is not a way I'm supposed to be? This is because you can look at TV all you want, but everyone knows TV is just is not real life.
Well, to be honest, and this is just my experience, but don't judge me. But like a lot of people, they'll get violent in that situation towards other people and stuff, right? But
Okay.
I actually chose a different route. For a while I used to self harm to deal with it, and that was kind of getting crazy. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just like it's like just a couple years passed, and then when I aged out of the system, I started doing drugs, and then that kept me going for years.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I stopped doing the drugs and wanted to stop, that's when I had to deal with all my problems. And to this day, I haven't solved them, but it's a lot better than how it was.
Right. That's excellent. Excellent point. Excellent. I love your approach. And I can even learn from that. Just take it one day at a time. And when you have addiction, just so to speak, you have to take it one day at a time because when you have a trauma, it rewires. It's like addiction in a way. It rewires the brain. Okay. So you're not thinking with the same aptitude as someone who may have a normal childhood. So you have to do things differently. You have to reroute, your way of thinking and really focus on who do I want to be as a person? What do I want to bring to society? And the main thing is what I think I call the solution for everything is what is your purpose? When you have a purpose, that kind of leads you to a goal to where you want to be in life and how you have to do what you have to do to get there. So Tony, so have you said, how did you get through it? What made you come to a conclusion of this is not life, but how did you know any different? How did you reconcile
Uh,
the two?
to be quite honest, it wasn't until I only been sober for about 6 months, and it's only now that I'm starting to realize just how toxic and how broken my situation was. And I grew up, and where I did drugs was it's a very poor area. There was a lot of people messed up themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so some of the abuse and some of the things, letting your kid run off with a 40-year-old at 14, I'm like, hey, that's not normal. That's not okay. And right now, I don't know if I'll ever find normal. I mean, I understand life's not like, Brady Bunch or the Waltons, but uh, I'm learning boundaries now to try to have healthier relationships. But I think at this point, I really don't know what's healthy and what's proper. I mean, if that makes sense, but I'm
Yeah, it does make
slowly
sense.
learning it.
Right. And
Yeah.
that was my question. How do you reconcile what's normal when you never
Oh, yes.
had normal?
Yeah, to be honest, sadly, I'm not sure if I'll ever actually know. I'm not sure if I'll ever actually know what normal is.
And that's the thing with a lot of the people in the homeless community. They are fine with being homeless because they don't know anything different.
Oh,
I
yes, I
watched
agree. Yeah.
They don't know anything different. They don't know anything different besides chaos. They don't know anything different besides the day-to-day life of chaos. And they're this in and out of homelessness is nothing to them. Nothing, absolutely nothing to them. Now, you've been homeless before, right? Frankie?
Yeah, for about 10 years. Not 10 years, like
Yeah. About,
maybe from 17 to about 25.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so what made you homeless in the first place?
I aged out of the CS care. I ran away from the group home.
Okay, so I thought you were adopted, you said, or no?
No, I was adopted, but then after I got removed from the house, went to juvenile detention, and then went back into foster care, like went back to group homes and stuff.
Okay,
So so
mm,
so from the 1 to 2, I was in group homes and foster families, and then from the time I was 11 to the time I was 17, 18, I was in institutions and group homes and stuff again.
okay. So let me ask you this, and if you don't want to answer it, definitely tell
Yeah.
me to buzz off. So, what made you go from being adopted to having to go back to the foster care system?
Just family problems and stuff. I'd rather not talk about that.
Right, got you. I got
Like
you.
like and it's and if I had the chance to change to redo everything, I would do it in a heartbeat, but what's done's done, I guess.
I mean, so what would you? I mean, like you said, but okay. So this is my point. I want to get across, and a lot of times, as children, you and even going to adulthood, you take on that burden of woulda, coulda, shoulda. But you do know that you went through childhood trauma and that was not your fault.
That's true. That's true.
Right. So you said you would do things differently, and that may involve acting out, that may be not listening. I'm not sure what it entails, but what I do know is taking on that burden has nothing to that's not something that you should take on. Is something you should recognize and move on and do better for the next generation of people in your life.
That's true.
Let me see. Truth Be Known says, this is such a insightful live chat with two guys who have suffered so much. Their truth is very moving. Thank you, Tish. Thank you, Truth Be Known. I appreciate you being here. Yeah, so this is a gentleman here, since, we were showing Sheila, we have this gentleman here that he just breaks my heart. I've seen him recently. He was gone from the first time I've met him up until a couple of weeks ago. He was missing. So when I finally seen him again, we just went to each other and we only met once, okay? But we seen each other and we just hugged like we known each other. Like when he saw me, he just melted. And when I saw him, I just melted. And we were just so glad to see each other. And it just makes you wonder how many people do this gentleman have that's like that he is just glad to see. He's gone through so much. And let's hear what he's gone through. Let's hear it. Today. All right, nice to meet you. All right, so you say you're born and raised where? Detroit?
Flint, Michigan.
Flint, Michigan. Okay, that's where they had that water crisis and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
Were you here? Were you there during that time?
No, I was not.
Oh, okay. So how long you been in Charlotte?
I've been in Charlotte about 6 years of my life.
Okay, 6 years. How old are you approximately?
24.
Oh, okay, so you're real young. Okay, so what brought you to Charlotte?
My mom has AIDS and congestive heart failure.
Your mom has what?
AIDS and congestive heart failure.
Your mama has AIDS and congestive heart failure? Okay, and so you're here to take care of her?
Yes.
How is your mom doing?
48. She's 48. She's not doing too good.
Really? How long you known your mom had those two AIDS and congestive heart failure?
She's had AIDS all her life. She was 13, but she had congestive heart failure for 14 years of her life.
Oh, okay. So the AIDS didn't affect you or anything, right? Okay, so that's a blessing. All right, so so are you homeless at the moment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, how did you end up homeless, hon?
I ended up homeless because my mom gets home, my check is showing to get me $5. I get $8.95 every month.
And you get what kind of check you get?
SSI.
Why do you get SSI?
Schizophrenia and bipolar. I have a bunch of mood swings and stuff. Not a diagnosis. Can't really go into them. I don't know all of them.
Oh, so you said you get an SSI because you're schizophrenic and bipolar?
I have mood swings, ODD, ADHD.
Mm-hmm. And you were diagnosed with all of this?
Yes, at the age of 4.
At age of 4? Yes. So you were only 4 years old and they diagnosed you with schizophrenia, bipolar. So what happened for them to diagnose?
Inherited through my mom.
I'm sorry?
It inherited through my mom.
Oh, so your mom has schizophrenia and everything as well. How was that growing up with a mom that was mentally, had mental illness?
You deal with a lot of arguments, a lot of getting into it over different stuff. Like she would get aggravated, she'd just take her anger out on me, and I would take her anger out on her.
Right.
So we never got along.
Right.
Out of 6 different kids, I was the only one that came over with schizophrenia.
Really? Okay, so you have 6 brothers, 6 of y'all, brothers and sisters, 5 of y'all.
I have 2 sisters and the rest brothers. My little brother is dead.
What happened to how old was your little brother when he died?
14 when he died. He's my twin.
Oh, so you're a twin?
Yes, I have my twin daughter right here. My twin daughter.
Oh. I'm sorry, so you say that's your twin brother?
Yeah, he got killed when I was 13, he was 14. He got shot in front of me. The left side of his face was decapitated.
Okay, so you have a twin and your twin brother got shot. And you say he got decapitated?
Left side of his face was decapitated. He had no more left side of his face when he died.
And you were there?
I watched him die.
Do you know who shot him?
Gang violence.
Gang violence. Was that in Charlotte or?
Detroit.
In Detroit, okay. So how did that affect you?
Well,
I mean, because you were there. That's your twin. That's like your other half.
Yeah, it maybe I can say it made me to a better person.
It really did. Really, how so?
Because I learned from the streets, and I learned what the streets give to you. They don't give you shit. They give you what you give them.
Okay.
Which is bullshit.
Right. Okay, so you're on the streets. You're homeless. So do you want to get off the streets eventually, or? Okay. What's your Okay, let's let me back up. So you. When I watch this, I get so angry, and what makes me angry in general. All of these adults, he's a young adult, but even Miss Sheila, who's in her 60s. At this point, from my experience, all I see are broken childhoods. That's all I see. When you see a homeless person, you have to have that softness. You can't see them as someone who just doesn't want to work. You can't see them as someone who just won't get a job or just doesn't make enough money. You have to see them as someone who has gone through so much, that has a mental health illness on top of having a traumatic childhood. This is what I see. This is what we all should see. Frankie has gone through so much. I would have never guessed, because he is so well put together and give such great commentary and insight. I would have never guessed that he went through group homes, foster care. And he doesn't want to talk about it, but I heard enough stories to kind of get a clue on all of the trauma that he's gone through as a child. Tony, all the things he has gone through. And still we are, they are here strong. I can't express enough as parents. Are y'all parents? No? Yeah.
I'm not.
No, okay. We have to do better. Mothers, we have to do better. I mean, I'm not going to be on my soapbox, and I'm not saying I was Mother of the Year, but we have to do better. We have to be focused on our children. Okay, yes, we didn't have a childhood, but we have to learn not to pass that on to our children. Okay, we have to bring structure and stability no matter what we've gone through. When we bring forth life, we need to be responsible and bring that continuity of love and care to them. Or we just have a society full of mess. It's crazy how you can go to one part of Charlotte and it's nothing, a strip of mental illness and addiction. It just makes zero sense. And out of literally 90% of them, I haven't talked to not one person out of almost 3 interviews that didn't have a childhood trauma. And out of that statistic, they went through at least 4 different types of trauma in their childhood. That's just ridiculous. Like, what is a solution? Is there a solution to this? What do y'all think?
Honestly, sorry.
Oh no, sorry. Oh no. Honestly, I really don't know. I'm actually learning structure. I got my first job like 2 years ago, like right when I got out of jail. And right now I'm in rehab. Like this is, I'll just turn it around, but this is sober housing, and but I gotta go to like classes. I'm not sure if it, but I gotta go to classes like 5 days a week. I go 4 days now because I've been there long enough. I have to go to counseling. I have to take my medication, and and I think for a lot of people who are used to running the streets, that's really hard. It's really hard to deal with structure and deal with rules. And at one point, I was in an actual sober house, and I ended up getting kicked out for fighting with someone. And thankfully, they got me an apartment here. But there's a lot of rules, and I notice a lot of people can't handle that.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, a lot of people I speak with, they go to like the men's shelter, they go to the women's shelter, and they do get kicked out because if you out in the wide open with all of your, your mental health illnesses and all your addictions and stuff. I mean, how do you feel about getting kicked out? I mean, to me, I think it's kind of unfair. You know what you're kind of dealing with. So did it give you a 3 strikes you're out rule, or the first time around you're out, or how does that work?
For me, it was a one-time rule. The person was being verbally abusive to me for like over a month, and I ended up hitting them, and they kicked us both out. But I think it kind of helped me because I ended up, I could have went back to Columbus, and I probably would have been right back on drugs. And then after fighting through it for 2 weeks, they're like, "Hey, we could get you an apartment. We'll help you get this apartment." And they saw that I was actually serious about it. Sadly, that guy, he went back to his hometown, and last I heard, he OD'd. And they brought him back, but he went back to the same old. And so in a way, I think it helped me. And I also agree with sometimes kicking people out because sometimes it's a symptom of like can't think of the saying, but like the rotten apple rottens the bunch.
Right.
Sometimes you have people who come in there and they're toxic, they're negative, and it makes it harder for some of us who are really serious.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, do they give you a 3 strikes you're out rule, or
usually with in that situation, but usually for like drug use, I mean, I've seen people get like 9, get so many dirty urines and so many second chances, and I think that actually hurts the group because if someone's trying to get sober, you're watching someone get high,
Right.
It makes it's like, oh, hey, I want to join in, but you got to kind of stay strong. And so I'm okay with some of the more strict rules because I feel like it kind of filters out some people.
Okay, got you. All right, and probably filters out the people who are there because they have to be because it's court order or something like that, who really wasn't serious in the first place and they're just trying to not go to jail, and versus the people like you who, made a choice and do not mind the rules and stuff of that nature.
Right, yes.
How do you feel, Frankie? Have you ever been in a situation where you had, rules and structures and it kind of just threw off the whole, gaming of this situation? Or, how do you feel about that?
Well, well, I don't like abiding by rules and structures, so I kind of make it up as I go. But I did try the rehab thing; it never worked for me. And
Okay.
as he said that there's a lot of rules, and you know what? Rehab in the meetings never worked for me. I had
Mhm.
to, I had to do it myself. But you know what? Though I can definitely understand what he's saying, and it's true.
All right. Yeah. So I know we talked about this before, but so Tony, how did you get to the point where you're just tired? You said you had to be, I mean, because it's one thing to
Um,
go to jail and get out, but it's another thing to be like, listen, I can't keep doing this
yeah,
life.
yeah, I did okay. Man. I went to school and things like that. And my mom, even though she kind of was neglectful in terms of like actually caring, but she
Mhm.
was there for me in the way where she'll give me like financial money, but she wasn't really emotionally. She wasn't there. She didn't really care what I did.
Mhm.
But finally, they got to because she was my enabler, and she finally got to the point where when I went to jail, her, my ex, my sister, they're like, "Hey, we're not giving you any money. We're not doing anything for you." So during that time, I lost my apartment. I lost everything in it.
Mhm.
Um, I spent 14 months in jail. I ended up going to prison for 8 days due to the way the time worked out. Really, when I walked out, I had nothing. All I had was my prison sweats on. And I'm
Wow.
like, hey, I have to do something. I have to change this. So I moved, came up to this town to a rehab, and I'm just at the point where I'm like, I can't ever do that again.
Mhm.
I can't ever do that again because I thought I was going to be, I thought I had nobody. I was vaguely suicidal. I mean, I just thought everything was over. And now that I'm clean, my family's talking to me again. Though, even that's kind of a toxic situation where, I mean, that's probably a story for another time. But
Mhm.
I'm realizing I can have a better life. I'm realizing. I also realized I could be self sufficient, and it's probably the first time I realized that.
Mhm. So of all of the trauma, the childhood trauma and everything you've gone through, you still were very cognizant that there is a better life.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, I think I finally just realized that.
Really? What was the
Yeah.
what was the revelation? What came about for you to be like, hold up, there's a whole nother world out there. How can't I don't have to live this life of chaos and ruckus and you not knowing one day to the next what the heck is gonna happen. How did you what was your
Uh,
muse?
oh man, honestly, just for one, getting a job, and even though it was a crummy job, get my first paycheck, my actual first paycheck, actually paying a bill on my own, and also just not having being able to call people and be like, hey, come save me from myself.
Mm-hmm.
Once I lost that ability, it was like, wow, I have to do something, and because I used to see myself as helpless or I was so under the influence of drugs, I was on autopilot, and I just realized
Mm-hmm.
like I have to do something, or it was either that or just fall over dead in a ditch or something, and but I realized I had to do something.
Right. What about you, Frankie? What was your aha moment? What was your muse to make you be like, there's a whole nother world out here?
Well, it's kind of funny. I went. Remember, I told you the last stream. I went to jail for 7 months for a crime that I didn't even commit.
Right.
Right. So at that time, when I went in time for the crime I didn't commit, I was on drugs and stuff, and drinking and all that. And then the day before I went to court, I got on my knees and I said to my higher power, I said, if you can get me out of this, I'll quit drinking, I'll quit doing the drugs, I'll quit hanging with the wrong crowd. And if I just get one chance, I'll change my life around. And you know what? Sure enough, I got out the next day, and the charges got dropped. And I've been on the good path, and I only been to jail twice in the last 25 in the last 16 years. And
Okay. Cool.
you know what? It's all because I got sober, to be honest. It's like it's I knew that I either can go down one path for the rest of my life or
Mhm.
try to change and have a
Oh,
decent life. And I chose a decent life because it's chaotic on the
yes.
streets, and and as Tony said, like I needed to do something because I would have ended up in a ditch too. Like it's crazy, man. Like that lifestyle is very like unless you know about it, like it can be really really hectic.
Yes, and the word is hectic. I mean, even on just the normal level of, having a job and be high functional with addiction, it's a big deal. Always chasing behind that dragon. It's a lot. It's a
Oh
lot
yeah.
to it, and it's very exhausting and keeps you very busy, and you absolutely accomplish nothing. I
Exactly.
mean, when you think about it, right? It's all this chasing
Oh
and
yeah.
whipping around, and you accomplish nothing. And I'm
Oh
talking like
yeah.
I know, right? It's like nothing is
Oh
going
yeah. It's not
on.
like you do know it.
Definitely.
I mean, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah. I
know,
feel like the last 10 years just disappeared. Like I don't, I was like, what was I even for?
and it's always a decade when you realize, hold up, what the hell is going on here? It's been 10
Right?
years later. I'm a whole nother decade,
Yeah.
and like, what's happening? What did I do
Oh yes.
besides chase behind the dragon?
Right.
It is so annoying. So, doing a short video. Okay. So let me ask you this, because Frankie, you mentioned this on a couple of occasions about a higher power. And for me, that was the only thing that got me to a point of stability. And this is probably something that the people who are homeless, who have, like Miss Sheila, for example, she is very, much into her faith. When you don't have your mom, when you don't have your dad, when you don't have family, you have to have some foundation. You have to look to something to keep you stabilized. Or otherwise, do you think that maybe is missing from a lot of the homeless people that's trying to deal with the childhood trauma that can you imagine,
Yeah,
Frankie, just
you need to have faith, and you need to have faith, like in something that it will get better, and that you can live a normal life. And also you need hope too, because with the faith you need to have hope that it would improve, because if you can't see hope at the end of the tunnel, why work for it,
yes,
right?
right, you have to see hope. Yes, you have to have the purpose. So you basically, your faith, you said your faith was very strong in helping you through this.
Yeah, I'm not religious. Like, I don't believe in God. Like, I'm just, I kind of, I, I, I kind of thought that there's something out there, like a spirit to guide me, like not
Right.
necessarily religion, but like as a higher power. Like, I believe in that kind of stuff. Like, there's guardian angels, and there's like spirits that guide you and stuff. And I feel like my spirit guided me out of this situation, because even when I was in there, I didn't want to be in there. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay. Right.
it always happening, but I didn't want to do all that. Like, I didn't. I wanted a normal life, even through the bullshit that was going on.
Right. And
Yeah.
Tony, like, well, do you have like a found? Did it help you to have a foundation, or how do you have that? As humans, or just anything in the world, you have to have some kind of center. You have to have a balance. And if you're not getting it from your
Was the
family,
moment like when you
and
realized
if you're not getting it from the streets, because the streets, like that gentleman said, it gives you what you get back, which is shit. Like, how did you deal, Tony? Was it just straight getting
Um.
tired, or did
Uh.
you have a foundation?
It was getting tired, and plus I needed a place to stay. By the time I came to rehab, though, I would say I wasn't 100% serious about getting clean, but I met a lot of people with sobriety, and they want to get sober, and they're doing their best, and that gave me a lot of hope and a lot of power. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not particularly religious, but there's like a celebrate recovery, and it's very Christian based. And every time I walk out of there, I feel more positive, and
Okay.
that gives me a lot of strength.
Right. Okay. And we're gonna check out this next flip and see what this young lady has to say.
so what was the moment like when you realized you have to be homeless?
I've become a child since I've been here. Like God is teaching me and showing me something. Well, recently I've been sleeping in a tent. Yeah, I'm an addict as well.
Mm-hmm.
I
To
deal
what?
with that, alcohol, weed,
Yeah.
and crack.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So this is a young lady that I met, and homeless. Just trauma, just gone through so much trauma. And she's still in the thick of it. Like, what advice would y'all give if y'all were to meet her and give me advice? Because what would I say to her that you think that would get through to her?
You know what? I would say that, that she's an important person, that even though she may not feel that there's somebody out there that would care for her, and that she has a reason to she deserves a good life, and if she can get it together, then nothing will stop her from achieving her goal. But as I said, it's all to do with your mindset. If you want to change, you change. If not, you won't change until you want to change, and even if you're back and forth, you still won't change until you're 100% ready to change. So she
Right.
has to reach to that point to change.
Right. And I love what you said earlier about having that self-esteem and a self-worth. How do you like how many people is that a big factor in wanting to get better? Having feeling like how do you start off feeling worthless? Because even when I was going through my chasing the dragon, I never had a worth feeling per se, like worthlessness per se. Um, I mean, maybe that's something I need to check into, or but I don't
Every
think I
case is
felt
different.
worthless. Yeah,
every
yeah, you're
every
right.
case is different. But for me, like I felt so bad that I felt like I didn't matter to anyone, and so then I would get high, and then when I get high, I feel like I'm top of the world, and this doesn't bother me, and that doesn't bother me. But then when it's done, it comes back 20 times more. So
Yes.
you got to deal with it, and not everybody's like that. Everyone is different, so
Mhm. What about you, Tony? How does self worth and self esteem how does that
Uh,
play into sobriety?
uh, I feel like I'm kind of restarting. Part of the reason why I did end up on drugs was because a bit peer pressure. Because like addiction for me, came with a bucket of friends, and people are a lot nicer to you when you have drugs, and they want your drugs, or
Mm,
and now that I'm sober, I realize that a lot of my old addict friends they don't care about me.
mm,
I'm learning how much of the past 10 years was fake. Most of my
mm.
relationships at those times were fake, and that hurts. And I'm trying to gain self worth. I'm trying to do things for myself.
Okay.
But I'm really sure. But yeah, I think it plays into it because feeling down for yourself. I mean, addiction is a short term fix. Makes you feel real good in the very short term. But,
Hey, wow. So how
Right.
long you been homeless for?
Yeah, so I
Okay. Wow.
hold on for a minute with that. So I just and that's a really good point because one of the young person I was speaking about before where I thought they were ready. I thought like they went in the hospital with a bullet hole in each thigh and I
oh
thought
gosh.
sure they were going to go into the hospital, they're going to be ready for sobriety, they're going all of the hospital resources and stuff like that. They're really going to be ready. And you know what the first thing they wanted to do? They wanted to go back to the old block. Okay. So,
Oh yeah.
we went around to visit the old block and and they really thought that those people were his or her family. And that just blew my mind because, they she was showing her bullet wound and stuff and they didn't care. They did not
Oh
care.
yeah.
They're like, "Oh, you were gone. Oh, we was wondering where you were." I'm like, "Do you not see what's going on here? They don't care about you. Well,
Oh
get your
yeah.
butt and get some help. You have an opportunity. Let me work with you. Stop chasing behind this fake family that don't care about you." It was just totally amazing to me. Truth be known, says, I firmly believe that childhood trauma, a loveless childhood, and daily chaos are huge contributing factors in homelessness. That is an excellent point. I mean, just seeing all of the people that we discuss, they gone through childhood trauma, and and that's why they are so
Okay.
that's why they are so well with handling being on the streets, because their childhood trauma. Basically, parents, we need to understand when we're being toxic, when we're stripping away our children's dignity, when we're not, like truth be known says, when we're not giving them love, in a proper way, we're preparing them for a life of feeling worthless. We're preparing them to have chaos and ruckus and basically living on the streets and being totally okay with that. What's the age of life expectancy of a homeless person? It's between the years of 40 to 50 years old.
Really, in Canada, it's about 30, 40.
Really?
Oh
It's
gosh.
even, can you imagine? And I can see how that happens because one of the people I was working with, he's been homeless for years. A great guy. We see each other. We act, we love like family. But he had to go to the hospital because he has diabetes and he had to get his toe taken off. I mean, so I can see how, diabetes not being managed, high blood pressure not being managed, your mental health, just the trauma of whenever you have childhood trauma, that increases your odds of chronic illnesses. Like when you have gone through trauma, you already in that flight, that the flight mode, that the high adrenaline mode. What does that do? That increases your blood pressure. So you always living with high blood pressure. When you have high blood pressure, what does that do? That can wear down your kidneys. That can, you create a scenario, an environment for diabetes. And you're on the street, you're not getting treated for that. You're not, truth be known says, I firmly believe that childhood trauma is a major factor in homelessness. Tony and Frankie wanted to change their lives and committed to that goal. Well done to both of you. Mary from the UK. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Right. So, Tony, if you've gone through all the things you've gone through, you hear, here and now, and how are you doing? Like,
I'm doing good.
You can say you at the sober home. You can sit here and talk with us, but I'm sorry, my background keeps doing that and it's throwing me off. I'm sorry about that. But how are you doing? Like, physically, mentally, spiritually, how being around other people who've gone through the same thing, how are you doing?
Oh, I feel good. I feel real positive. I feel motivated. I feel like there's more better things to come. I'm no longer in that weird mindset where I'm doing those weird mental gymnastics where I'm trying to convince myself that being on drugs is a better life or everybody's missing out by not being high and things like that. And I think I'm starting to finally get back to reality. And I'm starting to take care of myself. Like I'm actually going to the doctor and actually showing myself love.
Right. So you were saying that what you were saying about, going to the doctor and stuff like that. So before you didn't care about that.
Right. Yeah, I did. I did. And, I stopped taking my mental health medications. I went and go get a physical. And though I don't have any health problems, but I have gotten bronchitis 2 times in the last 6 months. So I do need to be a little more careful with that. And then they said my liver enzymes were high, and then they said I'm pre-diabetic. But other than that, I mean, it's things that I can fix. But if I was still addicted, they probably would have become much worse.
Mm-hmm. So you say you went through a phase with your addiction that you felt like that was the life. That why isn't everyone feeling like this?
Yeah, I think sometimes some of the addicts or some of the ones I was thinking, I think they almost convince themselves that everybody's missing out. Like we're all broke, we're all doing scummy things, we're in and out of jail, but somehow we're living the life by getting high. It's and I think that's just a way to keep your ego or just keep your I don't know. But I think it's like that thing when I said before, like the world could be on fire and when you're high you don't care, but then when the high's over, you're like, what happened?
Right.
Yeah. But I was in a place where I thought people were jealous of me, living in a tiny apartment with, like 10 other crackheads and and sadly that's what addiction does to you.
Wow, really? So you actually thought people
Yeah.
may have been jealous of the lifestyle.
Oh yeah, we were partying, we were having fun, but no, now look back, wow, that was really sad, embarrassing, and but yeah, the addiction almost makes you feel
Wow.
like
So
it's
how long you been
okay.
homeless for?
Hmm. Right. And what about you, Frankie?
Sorry, what is the question again?
Like, like how did you come to the point, your day to day and stuff like that? So like how did you just keep going with it?
You know what? Honestly, is I was so desperate not to be desperate from the drugs and the life that I had to do whatever it took, and unfortunately, that maybe I had to leave all my friends. I had to give up a lot of things. I had to give up
Mm,
every like I basically, and I had to leave the place where I was. I had to leave the city too. So that kind of
Mm.
helps.
Wow, you had to leave the whole city. You were not playing, Frankie. Frankie, you
No,
are not
no.
playing. And you have no like your family support. You know, do you have family support to push you
Like
through this?
I text my mom, but I don't really have contact with my family at all. So
Wow, I mean, so you basically
that's
done this from your own bootstrap.
yeah, pretty much.
Wow, and then in your case, Tony, basically you
oh,
said your
no,
mom
I'm
was
the,
an enabler.
oh yes, yes. She wants me to come back home and things like that. I also left town. I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and I ended up going to a small town I never even heard of. Like I didn't even know it existed until I got here.
Wow,
That was
that
the only
is
one I would have got
excellent.
cleaned.
All right, let's look at this
I mean,
gentleman here and see how he's gone through it. Okay, wow. So how long you been homeless for?
I've been homeless about 2 years.
Well, how did you become homeless?
I was hanging with the wrong friends, and my mom and dad had left me some money, and they tricked me out of it.
Are you serious? How many times y'all gone through that? Have we all gone through that where people take advantage of you while you're in a state of fog, mental fog? You know, your family and
um,
friends and stuff like that, you know, just take advantage
yeah,
of you.
my family they generally helped me, or sadly, even sometimes even went as far as to even buy me drugs. Like there wasn't much of an emotional relationship, and that it's really complicated. But a lot of the addicts, they stole from me and did things like that.
Yeah.
My mom, she likes to play the victim, like, oh, I gave them money, and then she goes cries to my aunts and uncles, or to her church, and like, oh, hey, I'm the victim, and. But now that I'm clean
Mhm.
and doing well, it's almost like she's like, hey, you want to come back down here? I'll give you money. I'll take care of you. And it's like, I'll be back on drugs. And it's like, she's like, no, I'll make sure you're not. But I almost feel like she's trying to sabotage me in a way. Because it seems the
Mhm.
better I do, yeah, I'm almost like a stranger to her now, and it's
Right.
very complicated.
Right.
It's true. When you sober up, you become a different person mentally,
Yes.
and
Oh, you do, yes.
like what things that used to you like before, or you thought you liked before, isn't what you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah,
Like it,
Right.
absolutely.
like when I got sober, I was like 150 degrees.
Really?
Yeah, like 180. Sorry, yeah.
Uh-huh. I was 150. I'm just joking.
Yeah, but yeah,
That
yeah. I just
is
like I'm still at a stage where, yeah, I'm trying to relearn myself, and I'm trying to figure out who I am now that I'm
r-
clean.
right. How do y'all agree with the fact that you come out better on the other side of addiction? How do y'all feel about that?
I agree. You feel better if you can stop and like if you can quit and all that, you're doing really well. But for the people who can't, well, they will one day, hopefully. So
Right. Got you. So y'all have any questions or anything in the chat? Truth be known is making some excellent points. Like you said before, I firmly believe that childhood trauma, a loveless childhood, and daily chaos are huge contributing factors in homelessness. So the whole essence and premise of this live is to bring awareness that we are from different walks of life, and whenever you see that person that is in need, don't just judge them and be like, oh, they're just an addict, or oh, they're just lazy or
Right.
whatnot. These are people who have never had a childhood, and even worse than not having a childhood, they had a trauma filled childhood. They've gone through the most imaginable things that I don't understand how they even got to adulthood to talk about and to share. But they somehow made it through, and they can still smile. How do you still smile when you go through that? Like, Frankie, all of the crap you've gone through, all of the group homes, all of the
I don't
foster
smile
care.
that often, to be honest. Like I don't laugh that often. I'm pretty serious. But when I'm happy, I'm very happy though.
Hmm. I mean, how do you open yourself up to show that you care, and just
It's
have
very hard.
normal interactions
It's hard
without.
for me. It's still hard for me to show people love and to show myself love and to be understanding. I'm still working to it to this day.
Right. What about you, Tony?
Uh, I'm sorry. What's the question again? I just want to
I
answer
you
it
know
right.
Oh, you waiting for the question? So I mean, like,
Oh yes, that's what it said.
I'm sorry, I'm just all in my la la land.
Yeah. How do I still smile?
Right.
Yeah. Honestly,
Show
I have a
care,
weird
show
thing. I
care,
smile when I'm nervous. And I'm like,
show care for other people, to have an open heart when you've gone through so much yourself.
right now, I'm thankful for like the people I'm getting sober with because they're broken too. So they understand my
Right.
weird way of trying. But I'm just learning boundaries, healthy relationships, and how to have real friendships. And and I guess for
Right.
me, I'm trying. I'm not doing it well, but usually I explain my situation, and they're pretty understanding, and I'm very thankful for that. And that
Okay.
keeps me happy. That does keep me positive.
Yeah. So what advice would y'all give to because I take, I read y'all comments and I learn from them. And I take it back and I, give the things I've learned from y'all, and I share it with the people that I work with in the homeless community that I serve. What advice could y'all give to me to give to them on the self-worth, and that is just not worth it? And how do you tell someone who went through so much of trauma as a child, how do you tell that adult to not pay that trauma any more attention that you've gone through, and to move on with life and to be happy? How do y'all do that?
A lot of love. You can't give up on the person. They may lash out sometimes, but you know what though, like it eventually works out. But you have to show a lot of love though,
Right. Show a lot of love. So how do
and
you show love?
patience.
Yeah, okay, love and patience. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. Hey, Terrence, how are you doing? Nice to see you here. Thank you. Let me tell you something. Love and patience, that's a tall order. I mean, I have a lot of love and I have a lot of patience. But woo, I ain't gonna lie to you. I mean, I keep talking about this same person because I was really thinking they were ready. Oh my goodness. And I mean, like, how do you keep that patience going? I mean, how many times do you just give patience when it's the same old thing, when that person is so brilliant and so smart and give you so much, to add so much to your life, but then at the same time they just won't give it to themselves? Like, how much patience can you have as a human?
That's true. A good question. I don't have the answer for that.
I guess as much as it takes.
Exactly.
How much patience did you need, Tony? I mean, like, how much patience did I need?
Homeless.
Like, my daughter was very loving and very patient with me, my family and stuff like that. But like, woo, it's really hard to keep that patience. Let's look at this clip right here, since it's gunning in the background. See what this person is talking about. This gentleman. Okay.
I've been homeless for 7 years.
Okay. So what happened for you to be homeless?
I didn't listen. I slept on the bench before I found out about the emergency shelter. I used to go to Burger King to wash my ass, excuse my language, to keep this body clean. But any money I made on the streets never went to drugs.
Hey, this is Ash Pharmacy.
My name is Life One Battles. I am known in Charlotte. I am homeless.
Okay.
I've been homeless for 7 years.
Hey guys, we're selling t-shirts to help raise money for the homeless. Oh, this okay. I'm sorry about that. Yeah,
Shelters,
so
they give
like
you
this gentleman,
permanent
right?
beds. And you got to really be careful when you come into these permanent places to be in the men's shelter, because the little things you do, you could get kicked out.
Right.
And
I can't go.
instead of them helping you, they trying to put you out.
Why you feel that way? Why you think that?
Because they got rules.
Okay.
Now, today, they can have a different type of rule what's not written down in the rule book.
Gotcha.
So they make rules up as they go along, and that's not right.
Right.
We got maybe over 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 people home.
Right. So have y'all gone through that experience where they just change up the rules?
Uh,
That is
yeah, actually, the rehab I'm at now, because it was new, it just started in December, and I got here in February. But they're changing some rules, and they're getting a little more strict. Some of us who've been here for 6 months and going every
mhm,
5 days, it's really hard on us. It is hard
mhm.
because the rules have changed. Sometimes like if we stay, and some of us get housing through them, and it is hard to deal with. But at the end of the day, it's something you have to do if you really want the housing, if you want the help, the treatment. You kind of have to.
Right. Yes. That. I mean. Yeah. I mean. My thing is, just keeping. You're already dealing with people that have gone through so much that's so broken, and to
Oh,
bring undue structure, stress to the situation. I don't know. I believe in a little wiggle room. I mean, are the
oh, I
rules
agree.
are the rules so much where is this almost unbearable? Is it like a tightrope
Um,
type of rules, or how is it?
um, I feel like it's a little ridiculous.
Mm,
One was just since I've been here for 6 months, we do one less day of group counseling, and they're like,
mm.
oh well, we can call you up on your days off to come drug test, and it's hard because now I got my own place, and I pay rent and things like that. It's like, well, employers don't quite understand when you tell them, oh, hey, I have to have these days off. Oh, and this day I might have to take off if they drug test me, or I can't come in at this time, and it makes life a little harder. It makes it a lot harder,
Mhm. Got
and
you. Truth be known says Tony and Frankie, I love you for you because I can appreciate how hard you try.
That's sweet.
Keep doing
oh
what you're
gosh, yes, I appreciate.
doing, and I look forward to seeing you going onwards and upwards, Mary in the UK.
Oh, thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
So I just want to thank y'all guys, for
Oh yes,
being a
thank
part
you.
of the live stream. I would like to think, it's not easy to share your story. It's really not, but in
Yeah.
some ways, in shape or form, it is cathartic. It's like a lot of people, like I mentioned before, they're like, well, why are you sticking the camera in their face, blah 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 blah. But like Frankie, when you were going through the things you were going through, anyone ever ask you how are you doing? How was your childhood? Really try to get to the foundation to who you are. Like, did anyone did people care?
Not really. Like I was pretty much on my own. Like the people who tell me like services and stuff, they can only do certain much. Most of their work is on you and for you to better yourself. And no matter how many well wishes you have, it's ultimately up to you to change.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. And what about you, Tony?
Uh, yeah, it's up to you, and I agree with that. I've been looking for more positivity. That's actually how I found your channel. I saw the way you were giving interviews, and I'm like, oh wow, that's really positive. And and I'm just I'm just keeping positivity in my life, even if like rehab doesn't work out or things go bad. As long as I stay positive, I think I've been doing well.
Right, got you. Yeah. So yeah, so I just like I said, I want to appreciate y'all. It's not easy. It's not easy, but we all
Oh yeah,
need to, huddle up. There are people out there that have gone through childhood trauma, and a lot of people that are interviewed, they've never been asked, how was your childhood? I mean, a lot of times they're talking, and as they're talking, you can see them thinking about, wow, that was really messed up what I've gone through. I could actually see their wheels turning, and whenever, and it's important that we discuss this because we know where to focus our energy.
oh
When I
yes, I
first
know.
came, yeah, when I first came to the homelessness and wanted to serve, I didn't want to just come up with a conclusion and just, start feeding and clothing and stuff like that. And what I come to find out in my area, the people of Charlotte, they are very well fed, and they do get clothing. Some areas of town are lacking, but overall, the resources when it comes to food and clothing are there. But what I found out was that mental illness was a big factor. I didn't know that. I didn't know that there were so many people that were around with schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, and they cannot work. They cannot function. They do not have family. And on top of all of that, they were abused as children. They are so trauma filled that how in the world are they supposed to get a job? How are they even supposed to get to a formulation of mindset of accountability on what they should do next with their life? You know, the addiction. I didn't know that, you always hear about homeless people being addicted, but people think it's because of the fun factor. Oh, they're getting high because they're not working, they're bored. No, a lot of times the people have addiction because they're trying to calm down the trauma. Like I said at the beginning of the live, trauma rearranges the mindset. It rearranges the wiring of the brain, just like addiction, actually. Just like addiction, people who have trauma filled brains, you can do a scope, MRI, or whatever you look at, and you can see how the brain pattern is different and wired differently from someone who has a normal brain pattern who have not gone through anything. So it's very important before judging. And a lot of times when you judge, what comes from judging? No help, hands off. All you're doing is judging. It's not bringing resources. It's not bringing solutions. It's not doing anything. So that is why it's important to understand when you see that, that Tish, when you see that Tony, when you see that Frankie, think about them as a child. Think about that inner child and think about what did they go through? Because people don't want to live that lifestyle. They don't want to live on the streets. They don't want to do drugs. Frankie, did you want to do drugs per se?
Nope. No.
You did it because you wanted to heal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That was your way of coping, right?
Yeah, exactly. To numb the problems and to get by, but and escape. And once my situation got better, then I could get clean,
Right. Tony, did you use drugs just for the fun of it, or were you trying to heal?
Oh, yeah, I was trying to heal. I thought it would give me something that I didn't have, and I was very, very wrong.
Right, exactly. So these are examples. With me, when I was using opioids, opiates and stuff of that nature, what was I trying to do? I was trying to heal. I was put on it from a surgery, but I kept going with it because it made me feel nothing. It made me escape all of the things that I wasn't pleased with in my life, the trauma I have gone through. It took it away. I didn't ask for that. I didn't want to have that lifestyle. So whenever you see people, see them as that inner child that was broken. And how is a broken adult, like, the gentleman that said earlier, what did he say? He's like, I had childhood trauma, but I have a job and I have a life. Yeah, a lot of people can do that, but a lot of people cannot do that. Sometimes it's too deep seated and is what you already working with. Like with you, Frankie, you were already came from, your mother, that was already ingrained. The cocaine was already ingrained in your DNA, in your mindset, to the point when you got it back into your system, you felt like, oh, this one was missing all along.
True.
I mean, so be aware of what people are going through and don't judge them. How can you serve? You said what, Tony?
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. Like for example, I have bipolar. I get SSI for bipolar, and I also have borderline personality disorder. And I ended up having a felony. It's a violent felony, so I'm only really qualified for fast food right now. And I know any moment, like there's an episode, and it makes it hard to work because you don't know when that episode, and it makes you almost not want to try. It makes you not want to build up your life because it's like, hey, what's my next episode? Will I end up back in jail, or will I be back on drugs? Will all this work be for nothing? And that's something that's really hard and stressful to think about.
Yeah, that's
you know what I used to feel that way, Tony, but it gets better. Honestly, the more that you stick with it, that'll get better. I can understand that, but and trust me, it goes away.
Oh, I agree. I mean, things are getting better, and I feel more stable. And
right, yeah. And a lot of times with homeless people, they cannot get themselves to a point. They can't even go to the doctor. And whenever they try to go to the doctor, the people that's supposed to take them there, to shuttle them there, they don't show up, or they get to the appointment the appointment was canceled. They don't even know. And then guess what? They don't get their medicine and loops all the way back to the beginning. Now you having episodes. A lot of people, that I've interviewed, they say what you just said, Tony. They's like, why even try? I've had a job and I lost it because I had an episode. I lost my job because I heard voices in my head and I was talking to them and they told me I need to leave the premises. So it's just so much. So awareness is everything. Having your resources go to the right places are everything. So it's not about just feeding and clothing. It's all about the foundation of the root problem. What is the root problem? In most cases, that childhood trauma, that addiction, and just all of the things that come with that. That's the root problem. How do we solve it? We identify it. So with the organization that I'm a part of, I don't want to just put food and clothing. I want to get them online mental health therapy. A lot of them do have phones in the homeless community. So I want them to be able to talk about that childhood trauma, because I'm not equipped for that. That's not my expertise per se, but I want to be a liaison. And, like I said, a lot of times they didn't even put two and two together that they sucky childhood is why they are where they are today. And if you know how something started, then that changed the whole trajectory on how you move forward in life. So anyway, any last words or anything? And I appreciate y'all guys so much. Tony, we are
no problem. Thank you for having me on.
Listen, we are here for you because we have Frankie and I, we have been there, done that, and we know where you are with this, and what you're doing is so commendable because it's not easy. It is not
I greatly appreciate
easy at all. And what made you to a point where you open to talk about it? Not especially when you're in the middle of it. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. Like, what made you so bold to share your story to help others?
I guess part of it, I got used to like in recovery, like, just talking about things in group, and then even just seeing your channel and I see other people, you talk to people and actually just letting them say their piece. I'm like, hey, maybe I want to say mine. Maybe I want to say what I'm feeling or what I'm going through, and that made me feel comfortable. Like, for example, I'm not on any social media. Like, you won't find me on anywhere, but yeah, I don't know, for some reason, just the community made me feel comfortable to say, hey, I want to say how I feel.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that does help. And talking really helps out so much. It really, really does. It does. It gives you different insights and different ways of seeing how life can be. What about you? What made you, Frankie, so open to talk about your experiences?
Honestly, pretty much the same thing. I usually wouldn't have talked to anybody about it, but then when I started watching your shows, like I kind of like I started thinking about more and more, and then you invited me on the live stream, and that kind of happened, and then that made me more comfortable talking with you.
All right, I appreciate that, and
Also, I've seen some channels where, you talk to homeless, and sometimes they make them seem like pity cases or like that they're stupid or things like that. It's like, well, no, they have problems, and a lot of times, it might be mental health or addiction, but they're usually resourceful people. It's just they're just doing things in a very self-destructive or broken way. But I just like the way that you let them talk, you let them be a person. And sometimes I feel like I've seen other channels where it's just like, wow, you're kind of acting like they're helpless or they're a child or they're stupid. And I'm thankful that there's someone like you around there who's actually just talking to people like they're people, even if they're in a really bad place.
Right. I mean, and it's from my experiences, to be honest with you. Hey, love for all. How you doing? I mean, and from my experiences, like I said before, I went through everything I've gone through. I wouldn't dare. I was very private. Ooh, I would like to do things, and it's no one's business. Ooh, I was good for that. Right. I mean, but when you've gone through hell,
why can't we get housing?
When you put, I'm sorry, stop doing that. It throws me out. I have ADHD, and all that clicking, and really throws me off. Stop it. But please. But when you're going through addiction and get to the other side of it, man, it's like that's when you're like on the road to being done. Because you don't care who knows I'm a pharmacist. I still work as a pharmacist. I'm still out, serving the community. I would never be bold enough to let everyone know I have ADHD. You know what I'm saying? That's
Right.
private. Shh, don't tell nobody. But when you've gone through so much crap and you've gone through the low of the lows, and then you come out of that, man, you just do not mind sharing because you want to help other people. I want to help
Oh, I
other
agree.
people who are stuck in that rat race of addiction. I mean, if I could, man, I would just love to just scoop up all those homeless people and put them in intense therapy and, help them with their addiction and just give them that clarity, that life. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
Just
yes, yes.
wonderful,
Definitely.
beautiful people, and they're just living
Right.
on the streets, suffering with mental health illnesses. They are suffering to want crack. I just cannot imagine, but they still have love and care in their hearts, and they still want to teach me things. They teach me things. They look after me, like, because I'm out there by myself, but they don't mind they will watch my back. They're like, maybe sometimes they tell me, listen, we about to do some things. You need to get out of here.
Right.
but you, but I'm nosy. I want to stay and see. But it's just we've all gone through so much, and we made it our duty to share. And I appreciate y'all so much for that. Hey, love for all. Do you have any comments or anything? Terrence, do you have any comments? How do y'all feel about childhood trauma, and how does that get you through adulthood? So anyway, before we leave off, final point. If you see someone that is not perfect like you, understand that 70% of people in America have gone through some form of trauma. Number one. When you see a homeless people, you best believe 9 out of 10 of them have trauma, childhood trauma. They have gone through so much. So instead of judging them, give. If you're rich, get them some mental health therapy or something like that. Start from the basis. Of course, they're going to have the food and the shelter or whatever they need. They need that. But before, I think they need that mental health and that addiction
Yes, yes.
resolved before,
That's true.
otherwise you can't really maintain anything in life. I mean, do y'all guys agree, or you think
I
housing
agree. I
should?
agree.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And plus, I think there's a lot of shame sometimes with mental illness, and that can
Right.
get in the way.
Yeah.
I
So
can
we
relate to that.
Right. So we need. I mean, do you feel it? Did you ever feel shame about thinking you had bipolar or what?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Or even sometimes when someone will make a comment, like, "Oh, you're crazy," or "You're being paranoid." It would stab me a little. I think maybe harder than the average person because it would make me really insecure.
Right.
It
Love
made me feel a lot
falls.
more,
It makes you feel a lot more what now?
like just insecure about. Yeah,
Yeah.
make me
Yeah.
question how bad off I am.
I catch myself being a little paranoid too when someone says I'm crazy. I'm like,
Yeah,
they know I have ADHD. What are you trying to say?
right. Yes,
That's
exactly.
human nature, but it's like screw everybody, whatever. I mean, what? Love for also, I have experienced a difficult childhood trauma. It's definitely not always drugs. Wow, that's really profound. Yeah, like the gentleman we just saw earlier, he said he doesn't use drugs, but that childhood trauma can have you in a drug filled almost like state, where your mind is just not where it should be. So that was pretty profound. There's not always the drugs. That's a good point.
I
That's what I'm
agree.
saying. So whenever you see someone, it's not always the drugs. So don't judge. Bring resources, give and help out. If you can afford the mental health online or something like that, try to give to them. So, but anyway, I'm not gonna hold y'all guys up because I can ramble, as y'all know, about a whole bunch of nothing. So I want to thank y'all so much. I want to thank
Thank you.
Truthfully Known for
Thank
being
you.
here. I want to thank Terrence for being here. Love for all for being here. Teacher Chronicles for being here. And all of the people that can watch in a replay, please leave your comments in the comment section. How do y'all feel about the childhood trauma? And did this live give y'all any more insight to the people who need us the most, the people who are on the streets and that don't have anybody? Even if it's as simple as asking that person, how are you doing? When you see a homeless person, yeah, pass them a $5 bill. no less than 5, and then ask, how are you doing? How are you doing? Are you okay? And watch how they open up. Watch how that human spirit lights up just from asking and giving a darn about them. I want to thank David McDaniel for being here as well. And any last words or anything, Tony? Tony, I'm so happy
Oh
for
no,
you. I'm
yes,
so listen. No, you stop.
yes,
I
thank
am,
you.
I am so proud of you. I just want to tell you again, I am so proud of you because I know you in the thick of it and you are doing so good. So I want to say this a million times.
I really
Very,
appreciate
very
that.
proud of you. Thank
Good
you for
job.
being here.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you for
you.
staying strong. And if you have my email, whatnot, whenever you need some extra contact me and I'll get you right now. Because I be cursing them out behind the scenes. I be getting tired of the foolishness. Like, no, stop it. But I be real, and that's what they love about me. They know that it's not always rainbows and sunshine and ice cream that I bring. And so I be bringing out tough love sometimes too, only because I really, really care. Any last words to Frankie?
No, just thank you
No,
for having
it
me.
was a
Oh,
good.
I'm sorry. Did I ever get your
Oh, no, you're
name, Frankie?
fine.
I'm Tony. I'm sorry. I mean ADHD.
Oh no, no, I
What'd
was
you
about
say,
to say,
Tony?
no, just thank you guys for having me. No, I was about to say thank you guys for having me on here, and yeah, that's all.
Okay. What about you, Frankie?
No, thanks for having me on, and that's pretty much for tonight.
That is all for tonight. All right. I appreciate y'all. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.
And bye.
You too. Take care, both of you.
See
Bye-bye.
ya. How you doing, Tish?
Hey, Frankie. How are you, sweetheart?